Hello, welcome to the Mediocre Takes podcast, the podcast where we share our mediocre takes on the shows and movies we watch. I'm Marco and I'm here with my co-host Mel. How are you doing, Mel?
Tired and irritated.
You had a long day of work today, didn't you?
Yes, I did, and it's actually really funny because my job was like, oh, so we're gonna have like significantly less work to do, and then also we're gonna fire a bunch of people, but it's okay because we don't have a lot of work to do. And then they call me on my day off and they're like, hey, can you come in and do this work? That's fun.
I can't relate because I still haven't found a job. So anyways, today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite anime of all time, Bloom Into You. So if you guys don't like this anime, I will be spiteful about it. A little bit. Not really, but a lot. This is a Yuri anime, which is basically, for those of you who don't know what Yuri is, female-female romance. It's sapphic, that kind of thing. And then the yaoi is boy on boy. I don't know how to describe it. Homosexual. Let's just go ahead and get started with episode 1. So this show starts off with our main character Yu saying that there's something radiant about love, but she fails to touch it. Yu explains that she's going to a new school and she's used to everyone in this new school, but there's still one thing she left in junior high. We are introduced to her two friends Akari and Koyomi, who are trying to help Yu choose a club to join. That's when one of her teachers said that she can help with the student council. After being roped into things, Yu goes to find the student council room where she sees a boy asking a girl out and the girl rejects him. The boy asked out was the one and only Toko Nanami, the student council president. After being found, Toko shows Yu the student council room. We cut back to Yu at the classroom where she's talking to her friends. Yu explains on the day she graduated from junior high, someone confessed their feelings to her and she hasn't replied yet. She thought about talking to her friends about it, but she feels distant from them when it comes to this situation. We cut to Yu at the student council room. We learn that Toko gets asked out by a lot of people, even women, because of how popular she is. Toko explains the reason she never accepted any offers was because whenever someone said they liked her, it's never made her heart flutter. We cut to Yu back to the student council room the next day. Toko is also at the student council room and the two have a talk. Yu explains that she doesn't know how to say no to a confession. She explains that when she feels love, she'll know it's real because she'll feel like she's walking on air. But when she was confessed to, she didn't feel anything at all. Toko explains that Yu has the right to say how she feels just like the guy who asked her out did. She rejects the guy. While she rejects the guy, Toko grabs Yu's hand and then Yu realizes that wasn't her hand that was sweaty and shaking from the rejection. That's when Toko pulls Yu close and says that she has started to have feelings for Yu. The credits roll with Yu saying she doesn't understand the words Toko is saying to her, but there is an after credit scene where Toko asks Yu to be the campaign manager, and that's the end of this episode. Okay, so I watched the dub for this anime mostly because two reasons. I really want to watch anime for enjoyment, and while I can enjoy things while looking at subtitles, I enjoy stuff much more when I'm just listening it in English. Also, I know like you lose some of what makes the anime, like you lose part of the culture, I guess. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I just find it so much easier to watch anime dubbed. And also, when I had to take notes for this, it's hard to take notes when you have to read subtitles. So I just decided to listen to it undubbed so that way I could take notes easier. Okay, so I love the way Yu uses the I don't understand line. She says it twice, once when Toko confesses to her and again when Toko asks her to be her campaign manager. And I just love how the words are repeated in different contexts. I really love the way Yu talks about love. She explains that there's something blindingly radiant about love and that it's way too big a word for her. And man, do I just love the writing in this episode. The music is perfect. I love the strings. I think that's what it is in this episode. To be honest, I don't know much about music, but I do love it. So how do you feel about the art style, Mel?
Oh my gosh, it is so pretty. I love it so much. It's so beautiful. I know that the process of making anime is like super bloated. Like everybody's making anime, and I feel like they just sort of try to push out whatever they can. So it's like quantity over quality. So I feel like watching an anime where you can really see like beautiful art, it's amazing to see.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. So I've watched this show 5 times already, and this is like my 6th or 5th time watching it. I love the background art, but I will say that the character designs, the more that I watch anime, the less I enjoy the character designs. Like something about the way their faces look, like how their eyes are extremely big, how they have like these pointy chins. It just really bothers me now that I've watched this show 5 times. Like, I'm like, something about these character designs, the way they looked, I just don't like anymore. But I really do love the background art and like the set design. It's really great. So I also love the water imagery we see in this episode to show how you feel separated from her peers. They didn't have this imagery in the manga when I read it, so it's a nice addition to make the anime different from the manga.
Okay, first of all, that was one of the most cheesiest like intro monologues I've ever heard. I don't watch a lot of romance stuff, so honestly, I did cringe within the first minute of the show. Kind of vibed with the first person point of view we get. I've never really seen it happen in any of the anime that I watch. I think that was really refreshing, and honestly, I feel like anime should do more of that. And as I said before, and as you have also said before, it's a very visually beautiful show, specifically the backgrounds and like the outside scenes. They are just so beautiful. It's so hard for me to watch modern anime, not only because like things we've already discussed with like all of the incest and pedophilia, but also just because how it looks. I'm used to like 90s and early 2000s anime, so I'm just used to sort of how that looks. And even the few modern anime shows I've watched now don't really put a lot into their art. Like I've said before, quantity over quality. I was literally watching this, and the whole time in the back of my head, I was thinking, this looks so nice. This is so beautiful. I mean, I've already said it. It's just, ooh, I love it. So I'm glad I finally found a modern anime whose art I actually enjoy. And I do agree that, I mean, I think all anime characters just look so bland and boring. They all look the same. They all look cookie cutter, but then they'll have pink hair. I feel like if I were smart, I'd have more to say about the show, because I feel like the writing, they put a lot into the writing. It's very well written, and I just don't think I'm smart enough.
Okay, let's go into episode 2. Okay, so we see Yu sulking in this episode about the fact that she's the campaign manager and she has to do a speech in front of the entire student body. She tries saying no to Toko, but Toko won't take no for an answer. We also learn about Sayaka, Toko's best friend, and the two of them have been on the top school rankings ever since they got into this school. And in Japan, they do like school rankings where they like rank your scores in front of everybody in public. We cut to Sayaka and Toko playing volleyball, where Sayaka and Toko have an argument. Sayaka's mad that Toko asks you to be her campaign manager instead of Sayaka. They make up. We cut to Yu and Sayaka meeting up, where Sayaka gives Yu a rough draft of the campaign speech. We cut to Yu and Toko walking home together, where Yu brings up Toko's confession to Yu. Yu explains she knows Toko didn't mean it in a weird way and that they're both girls anyway, and that's when Toko turns around and kisses Yu. Toko explains that it wasn't the heat of the moment when she said she had feelings for Yu and that she meant it. We cut to them meeting for the campaign. Toko and Yu decide to have a talk where Toko apologizes for kissing Yu and Yu decides to be the campaign manager anyways. Yu realizes she wasn't upset being kissed by Toko. She wasn't even excited. She felt nothing. We cut to a compilation of them campaigning. We cut to Toko and Yu being interviewed for the school newspaper. While they're taking a photo for the newspaper, Yu holds Toko's hands in secret to see how she'll react. When Yu realizes Toko has feelings for her, she can't help but feel jealous. At least that's how I see it. She wants to feel loved so bad. We cut to them going to the cafe, where Yu tries to explain that she can't fall in love with Toko, and Toko explains she won't ask Yu out but wants to continue being in love with you. That's the end of the episode. Okay, so I don't know if you watched the opening songs for anime, do you?
If I like them.
Did you like this one?
No.
You didn't? Oh, okay. I really love how flowery and gay the OP feels. I don't know if you felt that way, but that's how I felt. I like the way they put like pictures of flowers over the faces, and I like the song too. The art direction is just really fantastic in this OP.
I'm gonna be honest with you, I always skipped over it.
I really love the kissing scene near the train part of this episode. I like the fact that the whole world seems to stand still except for them. I really love the colors in the scene, and the leaves that were in the scene like floating around almost look like petals. I find it really fucking funny that Yu has no idea that she's going to get kissed during the train scene. Toko stops and Yu's like, hey, you shouldn't stop during a train crossing. That's dangerous. I listened to this podcast called Anime Out of Context that covers anime, and no hate to this podcast, I really like this podcast. They say that the characters in the show seem really mature, and I really disagree with that statement. The characters to me always seem like young to me. Like Yu is a pushover and Toko has a multitude of problems that we'll get into in the next few episodes.
I really hate friend drama, especially between girls, because it's objectively one of the worst things a high school girl can experience. So when Sayaka and Toku started beefing, I started cringing and just like curling in on myself and being like, this is horrible. I don't want this to happen. And the kissing scene. I'm with you in this. Not you, but you. Okay, because it was so jarring to me when it like happened. Like it felt like it came out of nowhere. I did not expect it because I'm really used to slow burns, especially when it comes to queer relationships, and I know nothing major comes out of it in regards to their romantic relationship, but it just happened and I was like, oh, whoa, okay, anyway. Oh yeah, but also afterwards I did sort of laugh at you for her to be kissed and then her to be like, whoa, anyway, and for both of them to just sort of move on. Just something about that was just so funny. I have sort of reacted in that way to situations similar to that, so I understand in her obliviousness. The coffee shop scene was also like just so touching, like Toku saying, I'm not gonna ask anything of you, but also let me love you. That was just so touching because it's so easy for me to relate to this show in so many ways because, listeners, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but I am a lesbian and I have had a lot of similar experiences to things that happen in this show. Literally my freshman year of high school, I did confess to someone that I had feelings for them. I did not have the same results as these characters in this show. Watching this scenario and see it have a fairly positive outcome was pretty satisfying for me to watch.
Episode 3. Okay, so I don't know if you have the version of the show that has like subtitles. Like there's Japanese text in this episode, and I don't know if you like had subtitles for that. But the show starts off with some Japanese text, and the subtitles of it are, "Why does Toko love me?" And this is going to be an important part of the episode. We cut to you giving an example of her speech to her friends. We cut to you and Toko talking about what will happen after the campaign is over after school. They're walking away from each other when Toko says she's going to the bookstore. They walk into the bookstore, which turns out to be Yu's family bookstore. Yu introduces Toko to her mom. We cut to Yu at home where she's talking to her family. She gets a text from her friend to hang out, and we are introduced to another one of her friends, Natsuki. They watch a movie. Akari and Toyomi are with them also. We cut to them after the movie eating ice cream when Akari explains that she's been rejected by her crush. Akari explains that her crush said that he wanted to focus on basketball. We cut to Yu working at the bookstore when she sees Toko. Toko gives Yu a souvenir. We cut to them at an assembly where they are preparing for the campaign speech. Yu asks a teacher if she can go outside for some air. Yu says she thought Toko would be nervous about giving the speech. Toko explains that she is nervous and thought that she could hide it from everyone, but she can't tell people how nervous she feels because they all believe in her so much. Toko explains that she doesn't think that anyone remembers her back when she was young. Her grades were average and she didn't have many friends, but one day she couldn't hide anymore. She started becoming the ideal person. She says that she used to be nothing and she can't go back to that anymore. Yu explains it's okay to be scared. Toko leans on Yu's shoulder. Toko says to Yu that whatever you do, Yu will hold it against Toko, and that's when Yu realizes that's why Toko chose her. Yu realizes that this side of Toko she's seeing is a very special part of her. We cut to seeing people give the campaign speech when suddenly it's Yu's turn. Yu is giving her campaign speech and she realizes that Toko isn't as perfect as she seems to be. During the speech, Yu says that she wants to stand beside Toko on the student council. We cut to the announcement where we learn Toko won the election. I love it when Yu calls out Natsuki for not responding to her text. Like Natsuki's like, we should hang out more, and he's like, if you answer my text. I find it funny that when Akari explains she's been turned down, Toyomi and I think Natsuki try to help her while Yu's just being pessimistic and saying, or it could be a lie. So I love Toko, and I have a feeling that you'll love Toko as well. She's a mess just like Blitz, but in an entirely different way. And I saw this one TikTok you sent me where a dude said you like your characters messy. So I had a feeling you would like Toko.
Yes, I do. Yes, very much.
Now, this is another issue I have with watching this anime so many times, but I can't tell if the scene where Toko explains why she has to be this perfect person is a bit too overdramatic. Like, I can't tell anymore. I'm so used to it now that it feels a bit overdramatic. I'm not sure if I would have felt that way when I first watched it.
Okay, so actually, oh my gosh, another personal experience. My older siblings, most of them went to the same schools as me. So when I went into school, there would be some teachers that would be like, oh, hey, you're that person's younger sister. And I was like, yeah, I am. And then I just felt like I sort of had to be like them in order to like, I don't know. I do think it can happen often, especially when you go to a school that your older sibling has.
Also, I find it funny that instead of hugging you, Toko just leans on on her. It's a bit weird, and I wonder why she didn't just like hug you instead. I mean, it could be like a cultural thing or something like that. Like instead of hugging her, she's like, let me lean on you. It's such a weird choice. I don't know. Also, I love Yu's relationship with her sister. She's really supportive in the manga, and I love their relationship.
Yeah, I expected nothing less from Yu's father. Of course, he's a bigoted cunt. It's the name of the game, baby. Seems like you can't write a queer story without it, apparently. So during Toku's and Yu's conversation, I felt a little called out. Toku talking about how she made herself become like the perfect version of herself. I feel like a lot of people can relate to that in many different ways. I think a lot of people put on sort of a performance when they're with other people or in public. They try to fit a role, like they try to be the funny friend or the mom of the friend group, because it seems easier to sort of just pick a role and be that instead of possibly being yourself and being scrutinized for it. And later we do find out why Toku creates this facade. At that time, before I knew that, I was vibing with her. I was like, I totally get you, girl. Wait, is this the episode where that little boy catches them kissing?
No, that's the next episode.
Okay, never mind. Fuck, I put it in the wrong place. Okay, that's all I have to say.
Episode 4. We start this episode with Toko and Sayaka meeting up and discussing some kind of announcement. They go to the student council room where we meet another character, Dojima. They talk about getting ready for the cultural festival, and Toko also brings up reviving the student council stage show. She tells us that there used to be a stage show made up by the student council, but it stopped around 7 years ago. Yu doesn't take this well. We cut to them cleaning files. Yu finds an old script of one of the stage shows. Everyone is about to leave the student council room when Yu decides to stay behind with Toko. Toko asks Yu to kiss her. Yu allows Toko to kiss her. Maki, another character that we haven't talked about yet, catches them kissing and runs away before the two can notice. It's the next day and we cut to Yu and Maki meeting up, and Maki asks Yu what she did last night with Toko while they were in the student council room. We cut to them at the student council room where Toko is trying to convince Yu to be in the stage show. Maki and Yu head to the staff room to do some paperwork. When walking back to the student council room, Maki asks Yu if Yu and Toko are dating. Yu freaks out. Maki says that he'll keep what he saw a secret. Yu asks Maki to not tell Toko. Maki finds it interesting that Toko is the first thing that Yu's worried about. He finds people who are in love interesting. Maki explains that he's the guy that girls always confide in. That's how he started following real life romances. He explains that he just wants to sit in the stands and watch the story unfold. And now he's found a new live story, one that's a secret performance and there's a reserved spot just for him. He explains that he needs to watch closely and with care. Yu tries to explain that they're not dating, and Maki explains that when he saw them kiss, it seemed like it was one-sided, but now he realizes that Yu loves Toko as well, despite Yu not feeling that way. And the episode ends with Yu explaining that how she feels is normal. Okay, I feel like Yu and Maki are both kinda ace in their own way, or not really, but when I first watched it, I thought that Yu was kinda ace. She seems like she doesn't love Toko, but as time goes on, she grows to care about Toko. Meanwhile, while Yu is flexible about her feelings, Maki is rigid in the sense that he's completely ace. I feel the contrast between these characters are really great. I find the gay panic Yu has to be really funny. In the last episode, she says that the way she cares for Toko is normal, and the sentiment is repeated again here, but this time, she doesn't seem as sure of herself. I like the stage imagery in this scene where Maki is having an internal monologue about how he views love. I like it when he says that the character from Story shouldn't fall in love with the spectator, showing how he sees love in a detached sense. I love it when Maki calls out Sayaka for seeming jealous about Yu and Toko's blooming relationship. He's like, are you jealous? And of course she is. Also, I find it funny that Maki straight up asks Yu what she did after he left the student council room. It's funny how she reacts. I like how jealous Yu is to Toko for not being able to love. She wants to be in love.
Yu was so right when she made that comment about how they need to be careful because those horrible monsters called teenagers live off of rumors. They've already given an example of that at the beginning of the episode with like people talking about Toku and Sayaka. When Maki was talking about how he likes to see love instead of being in love, it was a little creepy. Like, I understand being ace, totally valid. Just the way it was explained, for me at least, it sort of gave off like serial killer vibes. Just the whole watching part, I think, like him wanting to watch people like a movie and just see things fall into place. I don't know, it was the way it was explained to me at least was weird. Yeah, there's no issues with people who don't want to be in relationships, obviously. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with people loving romance movies. It's just, I feel like they could have explained it in a different way. I do think the way they explained it was interesting, especially with him being in, the movie theater and watching things. I will say this though, I think Maki has the most accurate sounding dialogue. Like when he literally said, sounds fake, but okay. I mean, come on. And I mean, he does make a pretty good wingman in further episodes. Also, I am so over someone catching two people secretly kissing. I'm so bored of it. It's annoying, and people need to stop doing it.
This is the only show I've seen two people secretly kissing.
Are you serious? Yeah. I see it all the fucking time. Usually it's because two people, it's usually because someone's cheating, right? So it's like, oh, I'm kissing my mistress, and then, oh no, my friend walks in, and they're like, oh, whoa.
Okay, episode 5. Toko explains that midterms are coming up, and because of that, there won't be any student council meetings. You'd think the reason she's worried about Toko is because she's the only one who knows Toko's true side. Koyomi gives you a draft of a novel she wrote. Yu has to study for the midterms, and she asks Maki to study with her, but he says no because Toko is behind them, and Toko and Yu decide to stay together instead. Yu and Toko walk home together. You'd think she would be happy studying with anybody. She wasn't flustered or excited, but she doesn't hate being chosen by Toko. One day when they go to the library to study, the library is full, so Yu asks Toko if she wants to go to her place. They go to Yu's place. They study and eat cheesecake. Toko seems off, and Yu calls her out on it, and Yu realizes it's because Toko has a crush on Yu. Yu explains that Toko seems like she needs Yu, and that's why Yu chooses to stay by Toko's side. Toko leaves, and that's the end of the episode. I kind of see this episode as a filler episode. Not much happens other than them studying and Yu explaining how she feels about Toko, as well as the setup for Koyomi's storyline and stuff like that. I like how Yu decides to stay by Toko's side because Toko seems to need her. Also, I find it funny that Maki asks Yu if Toko and Yu are going to hang out during the midterms.
I thought I'd get tired of all the exposition, because I'm not really a big fan of that. So I think that in this case of telling a story where someone's trying to figure out who they are, it works out. We get to see the process of her trying to just go through everything and figure things out. Another thing though, I really had to think about how realistic something like this would be, because up until this point, I was sort of seeing this through the lens of heterosexual relationships I've seen, and usually how that goes is it doesn't usually end well when one person confesses their attraction to another when it's between a guy and a girl. And I had to realize that I really do think that when it's between two girls, the chances of things going wrong are maybe just a little bit slimmer, or maybe that's just my experience, because I don't want to sound like a player or anything, but I've had I don't know, 6 or 7 friends of mine confess their feelings to me. How do I say this? It sort of did happen in the same way as this show, where they were literally like, hey, I like you, I have feelings for you, and then I'd be like, okay, anyway, what'd you get on your math test? Because fundamentally, gay relationships, or just queer relationships in general, are so different from heterosexual relationships. This story may seem strange to some people, but if you're someone who has had queer experiences, I think when you watch this, it doesn't seem as strange, at least to me.
Episode 6. This episode starts off with the student council meeting. Taiga explains that they're having trouble finding a script for the stage show. They ask Yu, Maki, and Dojima if they know anyone who can write scripts. Yu, knowing about Koyomi's novel, says no. Yu thinks that if Koyomi wrote the script, then she would actually want to see the stage show. Sayaka and Yu have a talk. Sayaka explains that Toko constantly puts up a front of strength and confidence, but faces a lot of pressure, and she doesn't want Yu to stand in Toko's way. Sayaka says that if Yu wants to find out about why Toko wants to do the stage show, she should look into the president from 7 years ago. We cut to Yu looking for the documents from 7 years ago, but finds out that someone removed the documents from 7 years ago. After Yu asks her sister who the student council president from 7 years ago was, she learns that the student council president was Mio Nanami. She asks a teacher about Mio Nanami, who turns out to be Toko's sister. We learn that Toko's sister died in a car accident, and ever since then, the stage show has been cancelled indefinitely. Yu realizes that Toko is trying to be exactly like her sister. Yu asks Toko what's going on and why she wants to do the show. So they walk to like a little crossing. I don't know, like a lake crossing. I don't know what it is. But basically they walk home. Yu asks Toko about what's going on and why she wants to do the stage show. Yu says that Toko shouldn't try being someone else and that there are people who will accept her for her true self. Toko says she'd rather die than hear any of that again. Toko explains that everyone loved her big sister and she did too. That's why she decided to be just like her sister. She explains that she's going to do the stage show no matter what. Yu says that she can't fall in love with either side of Toko, and Toko asks if Yu will stay by her side anyways. Yu says yes, and that's the end of the episode. Okay, so I love the composition of the shots during the scene where Yu is asking Toko to stop being like her sister. I love the way Toko seems to casually walk away from Yu as a way to distance herself from Yu, and how they walk closer to each other when they start to make a deal about how their relationship is going to go in the future. There's also a scene after the credits in this episode where Toko explains that love binds her, and that if Yu ever changed, that would mean that Toko would stop loving Yu. I find it really interesting how Toko views love. It's very weird. I feel like the whole reveal of the student council president from 7 years ago being Toko's sister was a bit too easy. Like, all she did was ask her sister. I don't know how else the writer kind of like made this mystery end up, but like, I don't know, the way it ended just felt too easy.
I am so tired of jealousy. It's annoying. Let me be mad for a second. I feel like the tension and the drama between Yu and Sayaka, well, first of all, it sort of seems one-sided because Sayaka's sort of just like, hey, fuck you, bitch, and then she's like, okay. But I think that we already get a good dose of drama from just what's going on between Yu and Toku, and the inner turmoil that both of them are experiencing. I think the jealousy part of Yu's and Sayaka's relationship is unnecessary, and it's super annoying, and it's overplayed, and I'm tired of it. Throw it out, writers. I know you're all listening to this wildly popular podcast. Marco, how do you feel about it?
Have you watched episode 7 yet?
No.
Okay, well, we learn more about why Sayaka is jealous.
Me not watching episode 7, I don't like it. Oh my gosh, wait, does she have a crush on her?
I'm not gonna spoil it.
The build up to it and the ambiance and just everything, and then her saying in the most calmest of voices, I would rather die than hear that again. Fucking hell. Okay, can I just say, it would have been, and that whole scene would have been so amazing in like a horror film. I don't know, something about that moment, I just immediately craved blood. But also, yeah, it was a pretty touching conversation. I really liked how they used the stone path in the river to show them like going apart and then coming back together. I think that visual just helped represent what was also being said. Very beautiful scene.
I also like how the train was passing by like right at that same moment.
Yes. Everything about it. Overall, so far, I've only seen episode 1 through 6. Very interesting because I don't think I've ever seen a queer story be told like this, where one is like already in love and the other is just like slowly getting there. There's also like, at least in the beginning, there's also no guarantee of a relationship, but you know, they're both okay with that jank ass arrangement going on. And also, it's just such a visually stunning show. Also, I will say this though, my only critique so far, well, okay, other than the other things that I've brought up, my other critique is I hated this weird fucking Marvel ass movie bullshit where they roll the credits, but oh no, we have a little story to tell. There's but stay in your seat. We have something else to say. That was bullshit. People should stop doing it. I almost missed it, honestly, and it's all their fault and not mine.
Yeah, I agree with you with the end credits scenes. When it comes to like movies, I'm fine with it. But when it comes to TV shows, and there's like for this season, there's 3 of them, and I'm just like, really, dude, like just add it to the rest of the episode. We don't need that. I really love how different this anime it feels compared to most romance anime. It's unique in a way of showing that romance doesn't always work the way media shows romance. And I really love the visuals, I really love the music, and it's a really great show. It's my favorite for a reason. Sadly, this anime ends at like a really important scene because the manga wasn't finished at the time this anime was airing, and there's no season 2. I've read the manga and it's amazing, so if you want like a conclusion to the story, please read the manga.
You're gonna make me read a manga? I can't fucking believe you. Are you telling me it ends on a cliffhanger?
Kinda, yeah. I was so annoyed when it finished. That looks so annoying.
I'm stewing in my anger right now. I'll read the manga. Oh my god.
Anyways, you guys, those are our thoughts on the first half of Bloom Into You. If you want to send us a voice message on Anchor, there will be a link in the description to do so. We're doing a queer movie night. We do it every month. We talk about a queer movie each month. Send us some recommendations if you want us to talk about a movie. We also have an Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, which are at MidTakesPod, which will also be in the description if I remember to write it. And that's everything. So goodbye.